Alright, so I'm going to revisit something I never thought I would, but not for the reasons you're probably thinking. Kind of explaining why this... Okay, so I've been asked before about the Vtec killer, and oh, well, can't you just put the A2 cams in the A3 head and run real Vtec like that? Well, no, because if that were the case, then a lot of people would be doing it, right? So just not to go super in-depth on this, to give just a quick rundown, you can see the major difference between the PNC head, the EP3 head, or the A3 head. See, you got the valves there, right? Now this is the Z3 head over here, but same setup as it would be the A2 or whatnot. Okay, I have a flashlight. Let's say I can't show you. All right, you see that little button right there in the middle, that little skinny one? That's lost motion assembly, right? And that is the key to activation of the low end side of the cams. So without the lost motion assembly, you can't run these cams properly. Now, can these cams be run? Yes. But then that's when it goes to the whole idea of the Vtec killer, and the reason why is Vtec killer is because it's Vtec, or I don't know why the fuck they call it Vtec killer. Killer Vtec would make more sense. If Vtec killer would be like, hey, we're using Vtec cams but not Vtec, but that's not the case. It's Vtec all the time, and how that's done is, from my understanding, you take the okay, so here you can see the rocker arm assemblies, right? Well, these rocker arms, they all slide the fuck off. They all slide off. And what people are doing are taking the exhaust cam and the exhaust rockers, and then putting them on the the PNC head. Now, I'm pretty sure the combination is exhaust from the natural exhaust, and anyway, the whole point is you can't fucking do it. You can't just swap over those cams and expect to have a normally working Vtec head. And as far as the Vtec killer setup and how much power it makes, the consistent numbers I see that are more across the board are in the 160 170 horsepower range, and this is including with bolt-ons. People aren't just throwing these in there and getting a massive upgrade. Now, a while back, somebody tried to debate me on how great this thing was, and they only had one source to talk about it, right? And that one source that they were using was making supposedly 200 plus horsepower with the guy quoted on there is an old ass forum from like 5 or 6 years ago, and the guy says, oh, all I did was drop in the cams and I made 200 plus horsepower. I call extreme horseshit on that. Why? If it was that easy to make that much power on these fucking blocks, a lot more people would be doing them, and it's just not the case. You don't even really typically see head swaps too often, right? People just opt to go for the entire swap, because even the head swap, which is real VTEC, all the way through, you don't see that much power increase. You see a decent jump, but you see the same kind of jump that you would see if you went B20V or LSD or something like that. It's a good jump. It's a healthy jump, but not a 200 horsepower jump. If you're gonna make that, you gotta do a lot more. And I think that even with doing the piston swap like I like doing on these poor man A2s, they doing the A2 pistons, I think even in that case, if you went with the Vtec killer, you're still not looking at a necessarily 200 horsepower thing without doing all the fucking bolt-ons and shit. So yeah, I think that the piston swap and full bolt-ons will probably get you a better shot at the 200 than just trying to leave the block stock at the 9 something compression and just doing that Vtec killer setup. So that's the reason why I'm not a fan of it. I don't, plus the only way I could ever see me building this, and it's not because I think it's a great option, it's just simply because of the fact that I don't like throwing things away. Now, if I bought a whole head at a great price that was damaged for whatever reason, like damaged beyond use, then by all means I would probably use the cams, because I think selling the cams for $200 or $300, if you're lucky selling it for $300, selling the cams versus using the cams for an experimental build like the Vtec killer, I would use the cams in the Vtec killer. But unless the head is cracked, you're talking about just a warped head, I would rather spend $125 to have it shaved and just use that fucking head versus trying to to scavenge it for a Vtec killer. And here you only see a situation like this, right? Like I was using this head, I went to go take this head apart, and these cams are fucking badly gouged, and also the rocker arm assemblies or the caps are pretty gouged too, understandably. So the head was really clean itself. I did take out the valves on the exhaust side, to clean them up. There's a light amount of surface rust from just being outside for a long time. Other than that, the head is clean as fuck. So because I have a bunch of these heads laying around, I'm just gonna scavenge this rocker arm assembly off another one. So I guess that would be a situation like, you know, where you would salvage if you had the cams on hand and you had the parts on hand and you weren't going out of your way to buy them, then by all means use it. But it's not something I would plan to build with. You're better off just doing a head swap straight up. If you're not going to get into the block and you don't want to do anything and you want to make considerable power jump that's noticeable, do bolt-ons and head swap. Although I really don't think the A3s are really worth doing much to in the platform it comes without really getting into it. Yes, you can make these a viable block with doing a piston swap and whatnot. But mainly the main reason why I think the A3 is something that's still a usable platform is for guys that are doing budget K series swaps in like older chassis. Because they're so fucking cheap, and the swap prices are getting a lot cheaper. EP3 transmissions can be found for $300 to $500. You can get cheap eBay replica mount kits for a couple $100. The swap harness is like $100 and some. So the whole point of saying, you know, the K swaps are too expensive to do for the average person is nonsense nowadays. So when I look at doing one of these format A2s or these piston swap A2s, I think I would mainly want to focus on doing it for an older chassis over a new one, because that's just the way I prefer it. Anyway, I seriously doubt I'll ever talk about this again. I guess it's possible I could run one of these eventually, but I do not plan for one anytime soon at all. I have zero plans for one. The only way I would do it is if I came across a head that was stupid fucking cheap because it was damaged and the cams or rocker arm assembly were salvageable. Alright guys, thanks for watching and peace.